It's funny how sometimes the biggest changes come from the smallest ideas, and that's exactly what we're talking about today. We're looking at a simple little kit that's having this massive impact on how kids experience some of their toughest moments, their very first encounters with police.
Just listen to this. Officer Don Warren paints a picture here that's, well, it's pretty intense. He says, the kid was standing there and you could tell how traumatic it was. Imagine that for a second. The lights, the chaos, and this little kid just frozen. And the thing is, what he's describing, that's not some rare one-off thing. This is happening every single day.
And that really gets to the heart of the problem, doesn't it? These kids, they're kind of the invisible victims in these situations. All the attention is on the emergency, but they're right there, soaking up every bit of that tension and fear.
Yeah, Sheriff Labatt from Fulton County, he says this happens all the time. You think about it, an arrest, a fight at home, even a medical call. Kids are so often right there in the middle of it, just watching things that are way too big for them to process.
And here's where it gets really, really important. Natalie Ammons from Noble makes this crucial point. That very first contact a child has with a police officer, that can shape how they see law enforcement for the rest of their lives. I mean, one single scary moment can plant a seed of fear that's just really tough to ever get rid of.
So what do you do, right? What if you could flip that switch? In that exact moment with all the stress and chaos, how could you change that first meeting from something terrifying to something that actually builds a little bit of trust?
Well, believe it or not, the answer is surprisingly simple. And it all started with two dads, Kevin Gatlin and James Fisher Javis. They just wanted to figure out a way to give first responders a tool, something to help them connect with these kids when they're at their most vulnerable.
And what they came up with is the First Responder Kits4Kids. Now, this isn't just a random bag of toys. No. This is a specially designed distraction kit. Think of it as a tool custom-built to help an officer cut through a child's fear and, open up a friendly conversation right then and there.
So let's break down what this little kit actually accomplishes, because it's doing a few things at once. First, it's about comfort, right? Giving that immediate reassurance. Then, it's a distraction, pulling the kid's focus away from all the scary stuff happening. And that opens the door for a real connection, a positive one. And all of that? It's building a foundation of trust. It's like a Swiss Army knife for empathy.
Okay, so the idea is great. It sounds perfect on paper. But does it actually work? When things get real? Let's hear from the people who are actually using these things out in the field. Check this out. Police Chief McKinney from North Carolina tells this story about a really tense child custody situation. He said the minute he opened one of these kits, bam, the kid's attention just completely shifted. It shows you just how powerful this can be when the stakes are high.
And you hear the same thing from Officer David Savage over in Wilmington. He calls it a really important asset because it gives a kid a way to kind of mentally check out from the crisis that's happening right in front of them. It's just a little pocket of peace in the middle of a storm.
Man, and this really drives it home. Assistant Chief Tyus in Atlanta. He talks about an officer out there at 2 in the morning. Imagine the kid who's just been pulled out of their home. He says being able to give that kid some small comfort in that awful moment, he just says it's just awesome. A little bit of kindness when it matters most.
Okay, so it's pretty clear from what we're hearing, these kits absolutely work in the moment. They calm kids down, they de-escalate. But the story doesn't end there. The real magic is the ripple effect. It's about planting a seed that grows into long-term trust between the police and the community.
Major Kevin Jenkins in Kinston, North Carolina, just hits the nail on the head. He says it helps bridge that gap and soften the appearance of an officer. Think about that. Suddenly, it's not just a uniform showing up. It's a person, a helper, bringing something comforting.
And Lieutenant Kimberly Collier in Memphis talks about what this does for the kid. She says when an officer takes that extra second to show they care, it does more than just calm them down. It makes that child feel seen. It makes them feel empowered, right at a time when they feel like they have zero control over anything.
So what's really cool is that this isn't just a grassroots thing happening in a few police departments here and there. Nope, this thing has blown up. It's become this huge community-wide effort with some really powerful players from both the public and private worlds getting involved. You've got major national groups like Noble, that's the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. They've thrown their full weight behind this. They see just how big of a difference these kits can make in communities all over the country. And it's not just nonprofits. You have huge companies like Walmart stepping up to support it too. And that's the key. When you get that kind of collaboration, that's how a great local idea can really go big and become a nationwide tool for officers everywhere.
So let's step back for a second. You've got the in-the-moment comfort for a scared kid. You've got the long-term trust building. You've got this huge community support system. When you add all that up, you realize this is about way more than just a little box of stuff. This is about changing the whole story.
And that brings us right back to where we started, with Officer Warren. He just lays it out so clearly. He says a lot of kids are afraid of us. So the whole point, the whole mission, is to change the narrative, to move it from fear to trust. And he says it has to start with them, with the officers, building those positive connections from day one.
It's just an amazing example of how a really simple, empathetic idea can have such a huge impact, right? It makes you stop and think, what's next? What other simple, human-focused tools are just sitting out there waiting to be found that could help us build even stronger, safer communities for all of us?